Welcome back to the channel. This will be quick. I've got a pretty shredded voice from a good solid week of some sort of cold, which made me cough all the time. Not COVID, I had COVID a couple of weeks ago. So this is just a cold. And today is the 3rd of July, Australian time, so it's almost the 4th of July. And I thought I would take a look at The Patriot, one of the worst movies ever made, because people are probably going to be watching Patriot clips on the 4th of July for some reason. And I thought maybe this might be entertaining. So there'll be a lot of pauses. I'll be coughing a lot. I'll try and cut most of that out. But let's take a look at The Patriot, the Battle of Camden clip. And straight away, we've got the classic. We looked at it last time. It's a green flag with blue facings. That's just basic stuff. If the flag is the same color as the regiment, that's the point of the flag, is it's the regimental colors, which kind of insinuates that it should be the same color as the regiment. Anyway, interesting, they have got it right with the gold on the officers' tricorns and the white on the men's. So there is one accurate part of this, I suppose. There's quite a lot of flags there. Not sure why they need so many. Generally 2 per battalion was sufficient. Okay, so we just saw cannons and we saw them firing, right? That's going to come into it in a second. Awfully close. Getting kind of close there. So again, we can see these howitzer shells going off everywhere. I mean, as far as I know, the Battle of Camden, there were like 4 cannons per side or something like that. It's a very small engagement of a couple of thousand men, 3 versus 2.5 or something like that. You're not going to be slinging howitzers, which are basically siege weapons, in a meeting engagement like this. I don't think the British even had any howitzers at Camden. I don't know why they were exploding rounds. I don't know of any round fired from a 4 or 6 pounder cannon in 1770 or 80 something, because the timeline of the Patriot is all whacked and crazy. That would produce that much explosives. What's that? 20, 30 feet in the air. There's clouds of stuff. That's ridiculous. Really, we're getting kind of close there. Officers can't control their horses. Classic young, scared people. Stoic British people, obviously, because that's the stereotype. Again, colours, flags wrong. There's a lot going on there. Let's just take a look at that again. There seems to be a lot happening here that shouldn't really be happening. So we've got like a 4 deep line for quite a small battle. I don't know why they need 4 lines deep. Maybe you should widen your flanks so you don't get trapped by cavalry. There's kind of a big, you see in the wide shot, there's a whole road that's just left completely open. There's a farmhouse right next door, which our protagonists can sit in and have a quiet conversation as this whole thing goes on. Might be nice to maybe control that, something, I don't know. Incredibly uniformed. This is the most well-uniformed militia regiment in the entire Continental Army. Or militia force in the entire Continental Army. They've all somehow managed to get themselves the standard blue and red of the Continental Army. I don't know where their logistical people were. Clearly they've done a phenomenal job. They've really grabbed the spirit of that Virginia provincial militia uniform, which is where that comes from. That's the provincial militia uniform of Virginia in the French Indian War. I'll put a picture of that up here. It was the first of the 3 colours I painted my militia for the French Indian War before settling on the New York scheme, which is this one, which I think looks cooler. Anyway, besides the point, officers are just standing around, they're not doing anything. Sergeants are, of course, standing there with their spontoons, looking. Yes, I'm looking at my men with their muskets. Well, you could do something. The classic, I'm going to turn my head away and fire. There's doubts about whether or not this was true. I mean, you probably it might be safer, but you're also looking directly into a musket that's also going off over here, so that's maybe more of a myth than real. Of course, a couple of guys, one or two, because whenever you fire a gun in a movie, it has to hit something. You can't ever just shoot and not hit anybody. The casualties of this battle are quite low for the British side. So I think we just saw 100% of the British casualties here from that volley that, of course, hits people all the time. Never mind the historical volleys you normally fire just to, get the enemy away from you. That's a little too simplistic, but you're not machine gunning people down with a battalion of 800 guys with muskets. You think of 800 shots from a line, you're not going to be just picking people off like crazy, especially when you're turning away like that. But apparently not in the Patriot. Here we see the bird's eye view, and he snuck up behind him. Because, look how far away apart these lines are. That's not what we saw. Let's see if I can get a better in-focus shot. They're firing way too early. That's quite far away. However, when we go back to it, I'll see if I can spot it. Come on, let's go back. There are cannons here. Come on. Shut up, Mel Gibson. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Regiment that's been marching for the past minute and a half, apparently. Yep, again, we're 6 lines deep, guys who are doing nothing. It's a very small engagement. There's 5,000 total men. You can find something for them to do. There's a forest on the other side. Why don't you go through it and come around on the flank? British did that all the time in the American War of Independence. How about you do something other than stand behind where the long shots are just going to hit you? Because we know they're armed with everyone's got a Kentucky long rifle or whatever because they're just sniping people. If you thought that militia shooting was good to hit all those people, every shot we saw hit somebody, wait till you see the damn marksmen the British have. Because the British have these crack shots. Look what they do. Oh my goodness, half the line fell down and the line behind. Oh look, the guys on the other side shot too for some reason. Oh look, people are getting hit left and right. And of course they do the classic, the entire battalion fires instead of, the first rank, second rank, alternating fire or something like that. The classic fire and then charge in with a bayonet, which would be quite effective against these militia troops. Americans mostly didn't, often Americans didn't have bayonets, especially these troops, although they are the most well-provisioned militia troops in the entire Continental Army. Maybe that just applies to their uniforms, not to their weapons. We'll see. Oh my goodness, they're just going down like crazy. And the cannons, oh my goodness, we actually see cannonballs in this scene. I'll give you that. We actually do see how a cannonball actually works. Oh, and off comes the head. That's how you actually use cannons, by the way. They don't cause these giant explosions and they don't ball or stuff like that. You just fire a big round ball that big at a line of people. And when you see somebody just get their torso eviscerated or the head taken off, or here's a cannonball wound from Waterloo that hit a cuirassier or a carabinier, I can't remember which one it was. Just took a chunk out of his cuirass. I assume this guy died. That's what a cannonball does. You don't see these big explosions. You don't see these crazy stuff, which we just saw less than 2 minutes ago. And the positions of the cannons have changed. At the start, they were much closer, and now they're way back. At that range, even where they are, I would probably be putting canister in that. Canister's effective at under 300, is it 300 yards or 300 feet? Anyway, at the range they're at, it's definitely canister range. Put them in the center, make a space with your infantry, and just blast them with canister. That's the easiest part. The worst part of this is the end. I've just been rambling, picking apart this. The worst part of this is the end. Because the entire point of what happened at Camden is made pointless by what this shows in this movie. So let's have a look. So the Tarleton Massacre, so-called, where the cavalry go nuts and kill a bunch of people. Here we go. This is what we see. We see the militia line falling apart. We'll see the worst disciplined British troops in the world do the exact same thing. Kind of historical, because these were actually not proper line troops, although there were line troops there. There were a bunch of regiments. I think the 33rd Foot was there. So, what actually happened was, Tarleton, whose name was Tarleton, not Tavington, Tarleton had his cavalry, and he went down. His horse went down and is shot as they're trying to deal with some surrendering rebel troops. His men see his horse go down. They assume that it's a false surrender, and they charge the rebel troops. The rebel troops are like, "Oh, we have a white flag. Why are they charging us?" It's a misunderstanding, basically. It's kind of a massacre by misunderstanding. It's almost similar to the whole Lexington Concord thing of, who fired that first shot that started the whole business at Lexington in the first place. So you're coming up to hear a surrender, your commanding officer goes down, you charge in. That's what happened, right? What didn't happen was this cold-blooded maniac charging, and they see the British line all coming out like crazy. The artillery is still firing for some reason. They left a flag behind, and there's the colonel on his own, far out in front of everybody else, hacking and slashing. He apparently has no guard of any kind, not even an officer who's just hanging out with him. The entire cavalry charge is pointless the way they've shown it here, because the way they've shown it here doesn't even match the American propaganda of what happened. The American propaganda of what happened was there was surrendering troops, they got charged mercilessly by Tarleton. That's why the Tarleton's Quarter thing comes from. And the British, of course, have the other version, which is more close to the historical thing of they shot at us, he went down, we charged them. This is just a guy charging a line that's still standing. And troops that are running away being hit by light cavalry. That's what light cavalry is for. I'm not sure if this is some sort of war crime, but that's kind of one of the jobs of light cavalry, is to follow up retreating troops to make sure they don't regroup. That's in the job description, especially light dragoons. Like, what do they think that they're for? Are we supposed to be outraged that's like, oh my goodness, cavalry did their job? From ancient Rome to modern day units. Units designated as cavalry are used to pursue fleeing enemies to make sure they don't regroup. Are you insane? Like, what's supposed to be the big crime in this movie? I mean, obviously later they put people in a church and burn it down, and the closest I can find to that is what the Nazis did in Riga, where they herded people into a synagogue and burned it down. And even then there's debate about whether they put them there and burned it down, or whether they just knew they were in there and burned it down. Doesn't matter. It's like, is this supposed to be the big bad guy doing his job that all light cavalry did? It's like, oh my goodness, the cannoneers are so evil because they loaded round shot into cannons and lit them off and the ball went flying. It's like, what? It's his job. He's a light cavalry officer. His job is to chase fleeing troops. They weren't surrendering. They're running away backwards, still with their weapons. Besides, this is the Southern American theater. You can do basically whatever you want. This whole war is just a crime on both sides. It's just bushwhacking and revenge killings and all this sort of stuff. The fact that this 5,000-man battle even happened was an accident. Is this supposed to be the movie's big moment of like, oh my goodness, he massacred those people. He killed them all because... You can even see it here. It's not surrendering troops. They're running with their weapons. What do you think surrendering troops are going to do once they've run far enough? Do you think they're going to be like, okay, we're back behind the fence, now we're going to surrender? Do you think they're going to be like, okay, we got out of cannon range, the infantry are far behind us, let's stack all our arms up and let's give up now? Or do you think maybe they're going to get back and they're going to go, okay, they're not chasing us anymore, let's regroup and either get out of here or have another go or scatter or something like that? It just drives me insane, and I'm kind of rambling, and I just did this off the moment, and my voice is shredded, so I'm not going to talk too long, but it makes no sense what happened in this movie. It makes no sense to be mad about it. It makes no sense to even bring it up as a point. It's light cavalry doing their job, and you're supposed to be mad. It drives me nuts, and I'm going to end it here. It's a bit of a fun one for the 4th of July. I'm going to be painting up a bunch of... well, that's a British. I probably shouldn't get that one out. This one is an American. Yes, that's an American there. I'm going to be painting up some 28mm Perry stuff for 4th of July, even though I live in Australia. So enjoy. Don't watch this trash movie. If you want to see a better analysis of the Patriot, I made another video which I'll link in the description, which is the big battle at the end and how trash that is. The Battle of the Coral Sea is what I call it, because there's nothing like anything else. So, if you enjoyed, please come back. I promise my voice will be better by the next one. Thank you very much for watching. Have a wonderful day.